for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, turn over to the superintendent for the district-wide safety plan.
So as I mentioned at the last meeting, we needed to just have an opportunity to hear from the public regarding the plan. There were no significant changes to the plan, just some name changes to the plan. So if there were any questions or anyone had questions, certainly I'd be more than happy to answer them. And the other thing that I always say is this: there's the district-wide safety plan, which is the plan that's available to everybody in the district. Anybody can see it, and it's on our website. But then each school has its own safety plan, and those safety plans are not for public consumption. Okay, they're not for the general public's eyes, because there's very specific things in there that are pertinent to the safety of those schools.
All right, also the code of conduct that's listed in public hearings. We're not moving for that. It's
No significant changes except one, and that is, as everybody in New York State probably knows, cannabis and cannabis cannabinoid products are no longer treated like some of the other drugs. Instead, it's treated more like alcohol would be in New York State, particularly when it comes to school discipline. So we had to change the language there, and that actually aligns with the policy. So the code of conduct's there. You'll notice later on the agenda is the code of conduct for adoption, which needs to come after the second reading of the policy change. Okay. And the other thing I would say, just for those who would say, well, what's really going to be different about how we deal with situations where someone has marijuana on school property? Quite frankly, there wasn't any real significant difference between how we dealt with that and alcohol on school property before. It's a zero tolerance. It leads to suspension, long-term suspension. So nothing with regard to that would really change.
okay. Anyone set for privilege of the floor? All right, good. Consensus agenda items. I have to call for a motion to accept the consensus agenda as submitted.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Anything to separate or to discuss? If not, then all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. Okay, personnel report. Call for a motion to accept the personnel items as submitted.
Make that motion.
Moved and seconded. Anything to separate or to vote on separately? All right. And then all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. All right. We have a second reading of two policies. Policy 3310, public access to records, and policy 5640, smoking tobacco, cannabis, marijuana use. Any further discussion before we call a vote? All right. All those in favor of accepting the second reading from our policy committee, please say aye. Aye. Opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. All right. Our ex officio student member is not here tonight. Presence report, just to remember, I did confirm with NISBA that they are going to go with the Sunday through Tuesday. So we are Sunday through Tuesday at NISBA for that. Yep. And again, every single board president scratching their head. Just, All right, superintendent's report.
Great, thank you. First, I do want to mention that our ex officio student member is also going to be a member of our CDEP team, and we've had that's been the case for the last few ex officio members. So she's going to do that as well, which is great. So thank you. The last few days we've had our administrative retreat that started on Monday. We finished up this afternoon. We do have some goals that'll come to the board at our next meeting. Really, there's no changes to the goals themselves. However, all the CSEP plans, so whenever I say CDEP, it's the Comprehensive District Educational Planning. There's no changes to those three goals. However, the CSEP plans are certainly going to be amended, adjusted, many additions, and as you can imagine, lean towards some of the social emotional learning, some of the cultural diversity training. So those things are taking place. We've been talking about those all along anyway, so there won't be any surprise really there. In the last meeting in October and the first meeting of November, we'll have those CSEP plans presented to the board, okay? And then as usual, they'll come back then in the spring and report on the progress of those goals. We didn't do that exactly this year because it was a little different year. As far as the Board of Education retreat, that is scheduled for August 16th. I did submit a request to NISBA to help facilitate in the morning, and in the afternoon we have Rick Timms will be coming in. He's our financial advisor. Myself, Allison will be talking about our long-range planning. Okay, that'll be our afternoon. And then tomorrow, really important, we are hosting a conference. It's a funding equity conference, and our concern is that our district, and particularly our native school, the Tuscarora Indian School, and two other native schools that are on native lands in New York State are not receiving equitable funding when it comes to their capital project work. Okay, and it's a serious, significant problem. The amount of funding that those schools receive versus what we're spending on our other schools in all three of our districts, it's not close. So we are hosting a conference tomorrow. It's here. It's at 10 a.m. We will then leave here, head over to the Tuscarora Indian School, take a look at some of the problems with the building, and then we'll have a lunch, and then the conference will close. It was very eerie how similar the situations are within the three districts and for those particular schools and what's happening. So I'll say more certainly at our next meeting following the conference, but we're going to provide numbers. We've invited our legislators. We've invited the legislators of those two other districts to join us as well. I don't know how many are coming in person, but we certainly were willing to share the link as well, because we will do it via Zoom for the legislators to join. We'll have representatives from those nations here as well.
Yeah, when they discuss this with the government and that, has there ever been discussions or the cost is just too much? Being a much older school, of building a one-floor new school, is that?
Well, that's a great question. It's certainly something that we've talked a little bit about. I guess we'll see once we tell them what our ask is, versus what the cost of a new school is. There's a lot of issues with, of course, trying to build a new school too, right? Where do you put it if it's on that property? Where do students go during? You don't put up a new school overnight. All those issues. But we know that for our school, for the Tuscarora Indian School, it is just under $10 million worth of work from a 2015 building condition survey. And that's just to kind of get the building up to code. That has nothing to do with technology, additional safety, initiatives that we've done in some of our other buildings. So, the issue is that unlike all of our other schools, it's New York State's responsibility to oversee the maintenance of that building. In essence, they own the building. It's on native land, but they own that building and they're responsible for it. We're responsible to educate the kids in the building. So it's a great question. We'll see what direction it goes. And really what's happened is, to all of us, all three schools, is that we wait in line. We're told we're next. some work's done, and in all of those years, the cost of all of those projects goes up. And the example, a big one for us right now is the plan is next summer for them to finally do the brickwork at that school. And the school, the cost of that initially, when they had an estimate, was $1 million to redo the brickwork. Now it's at 1.5 million. So no, we don't oversee the project. It's actually there's a facilities unit in the New York State Education Department that oversees that work. Absolutely. It doesn't go out to a vote. It doesn't, so there's many issues with how it's done. And the biggest one is the funding's just far from equitable. Regardless of who has the opportunity to oversee it, there's not enough money to go around to keep that building up to par. Yeah, no, it's good. Good questions. Other questions related to that? Okay. Just really quickly share our CDEP goals. The first one, and these will come to the board at the next meeting, but the district will continue to cultivate a safe, healthy, and supportive environment. Number 2, the district will provide learning experiences that accelerate academic, social, emotional, and physical student learning. And number 3, the district will continue to increase engagement in the school community. We'll talk a little bit at the next meeting about some of those things and what we've done over the past year. I know we talked about some of those things at the end of this past school year, but I'll just reiterate a few of those things at our next meeting. I put on the board for notes, I put still awaiting the update from New York State and New York State Department of Health. We've really heard nothing. We're still waiting for an update as to what the start of next school year looks like. As of right now, what's in place is what's in place for summer camps and what we're going to do for summer school. So until something new comes out, we're not going to change anything. As all of you know, we're very interested in all kids here 5 days a week. That's our desire. Our desire is not to have a program that's virtual in nature. But again, we'll see what the state requirements are, if there are any in those areas. We'll see. Dr. What's he said? Oh, last but not least. Oh, question. Go right ahead.
If you guys require masks, are you going to offer virtual if there's a mask policy?
If we require masks, will we have virtual?
Yes.
I guess it depends on how we would have to require masks, right? But our goal is to not have a virtual program. It's to have every kid here 5 days a week. So last year, and I don't know if familiar, last year we had all of our elementary students could be here 5 days a week, right? We weren't able to do that at the secondary because of the changes that have been made in social distancing, which is now 3 feet. We could have all of our secondary kids here as well next year. So right now the mask requirement is only when people are in transition. So when they get into a classroom, they sit down, they don't have to have their masks on.
So essentially the policy that was in place at the end of August of last year, 2 years ago. Last year.
I don't know that. I know what we have in place with.
Right, but it was essentially supposed to be that way last year in August, and it changed a week or 2 before rolling.
Honestly, I can't. As you can imagine, for a lot of us, a lot of that was a blur. You had because you had those 2 different documents that came out pretty close to one another. Right. You had the New York State Department of Health document, yes. And then you also had the NICEA document. That they came out pretty close to one another. And
so, is there any decision making on your part, you guys?
Good question.
To where you guys can make a call based on CDC guidelines, or you just follow the CDC guidelines?
I'm so glad you asked. It depends. Depends on what they say. It's not what the CDC says, because those are guidelines. It's what New York State says with relation to those guidelines, right? Okay. So, and I think to the point, we don't know yet. Are they going to say there's local decisions here to be made, or here are the guidelines? Here's the updated guidelines. We're sticking with what we did in the summer. We don't know yet. We were hoping to hear by the end of June. It's now, well into July.
But your plan is to have no virtual, which is good.
Correct.
But if you require masks on the children, there's going to be people that don't want their kids in school in masks, and they're going to want virtual.
Sure. Understood.
And that's a dilemma across the state because every single school board's hearing the same thing. And so of course, our task then is to say to state ed saying, well, you created this by not being decisive and giving us clear guidelines early on. You have to make a decision. You have to tell us how to operate with that piece.
That's right. Because
obviously, and I'll tell you, 99% of the people I talk to don't want virtual. 99% of the people I talk to don't want masks. If they're in school, and our decision making stems directly from what New York State tells us, what state ed tells us, more so what the governor's office says. And if you ever watch his press conferences, he changes day by day.
Is there any leeway with that, with you guys at all?
So, and I think that gets to your first point, who gets to make decisions with this? The CDC had in their guidelines certainly said that there was some flexibility, right, with regard to local because of the vaccination rates and how they're different throughout the country. We don't know yet if the state education department, or more importantly, Department of Health is going to follow that or not.
So you guys will all put in terms of that.
Sure.
Vaccines,
Yep.
second
That's right.
vaccines, right?
That's right. Good questions. And then, I just had one more thing. As I say at the end of our meeting, food service, still free. It'll be free until June 30th, 2022. Okay. There's certainly some talk of continuing after that. Our food service director's hearing that. If that does happen, we'll bring everybody up to speed. But as of right now, breakfast, lunch, free until June 30th, 2022. Thank you.
Any other questions of superintendent? All right. I have no reports to the board right now. Any items for board discussion? All right, any old business? All right, new business. I'd like to call for motion to accept the new code of conduct.
I'll make that motion.
All right, any discussion on that item? If not, all those in favor of accepting the code of conduct for 2021, 2022, please say aye. Aye. Opposed or abstaining? Motion carries.
I mentioned just one quick thing.
Sure.
Just one quick thing I did mention because B is in the house here tonight, and you did receive a letter from the NWTA regarding the clothing closet. It's something we talked a little bit about last year. That's come up even more through our Equity and Education Committee, and there's a letter there. So I don't know if you have any questions, but it's certainly, I think, a really great opportunity for our school community and a really nice partnership.
I just spoke for 2 minutes, just kind of summarize the letter.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Would that be okay?
Sure.
My name is Beatrice Singer Known. I'm a resident. My kids went through NW. I'm also a teacher here, and I'm also part of the NWTA. So I'm actually the social justice chair. And through the pandemic, the social justice committee really, like everyone else, saw the disparities in our district. And we really wanted to do something to help NW families. So our vision is kind of a long-term vision for a caring closet for NW families that would include hygiene supplies, laundry supplies, cleaning supplies, and possibly even secondhand clothes and non-perishable food. So that's our vision, our long-term vision. And as we kind of went through the year doing little activities here, little activities there, we realized we wanted to do something that was more sustainable, not just a drive here and a drive there. So that's kind of how it came about. And then also myself sitting on the Equity and Education Committee, we saw there were parallels and things that we wanted to do in the district. So we kind of looked at what was going on, and we saw that the food service needs were really being addressed by our food service department, that they were really helping with the food insecurity. We also talked about how there's local food banks out there to support the community. And in our discussion on our committee was, sometimes kids were missing school because they didn't have clean laundry, or they weren't able to take care of their hygiene and feel comfortable coming to school. And so we saw this as a great starting point for our committee, that we want our caring closet to address hygiene and laundry needs for the NW families. So with that, we decided that's what we're going to start with as a kind of a focus to make sure we can make it work and make it sustainable. The NWTA has shown their commitment by contributing $500 in starter funds for this caring closet. But right now we're also doing a bottle and can drive as a fundraiser, and we are out in the community looking for sponsors. 100% of the proceeds will go directly to caring closet needs. It will not go to anything other than things that will go in the caring closet, whether it's shelves to help stock it or actual supplies, but it's only going to go to caring closet needs. But as we're out there in the community asking for sponsors, we really felt it was important that you guys were aware of what we were doing. So if someone from the community comes to you and says, hey, you know, someone came and asked if my business would sponsor this, we really wanted you to know what it was all about. So it really is, I just wanted to kind of give you a quick background on it, how it came about, why we're doing it. Really just wanted to find a way that supported families and kind of fill a hole that we saw. So feel free to address questions to the committee if you don't have any right now. I could quickly try to answer a couple questions if you have any, but.
Would this be just to the Niagara Wheatfield community? Or
Yeah.
would this expand to other areas?
We're going to focus right now on Niagara Wheatfield. So that's really, you know, we want to make sure we can get it up and running and working. And our vision is maybe something bigger in the future. Maybe we could expand it to like veteran families or, you know, something, but we don't want to take off more than we can chew right away. We want to make sure it's successful and then expand from there. So that's kind of why we're starting small.
And if I could just add, you know, all of our buildings have something like that.
Yes.
You know, so it's not uncommon for schools to have something small like that, but the other service districts in the area who have done something similar. And I just think it's really great leadership on your part.
Thank you.
And, you know, it just fits in so nicely with something.
And I do want to say, I mean, it was the committee, like I had planned a couple of these little things here and there, and the committee said, like, we would really like to do something for our NW families that is sustainable. And so through that discussion, this is how it came about. So it was really a group effort or organic kind of thing. So.
Now, there's like two committees. Is this the committee with Marissa and Vincenza?
No, I'm on that committee with the administration. However, this is through our union, the NWTA union. So the union is doing this kind of separately. Yes, yes. But again, in our committee meetings, we were seeing the same needs with our students that we wanted to address. And so, so this is what we came up with. So.
Isn't that what Marissa's group?
Correct, exactly. And be a part of that as well.
Right. And so, and we look at it as being kind of parallel or in conjunction or, you know, hopefully, yeah, kind of working together as we work for our families. So. Okay. Thank you. And feel free if you think of anything, you can always send them along. So. Yes.
Running the bottle and can drive through where?
It's the bottle and can retrieval centers all over Western New York. And you just have to say that your donations, your bottles go to the NWTA fundraiser. And then when we get it, they'll give us a check. And again, it goes right to our clothing closet budget line. So it'll go right to that. So.
Accepting any donations, I mean, cash checks?
Yes, they have to be checks because we have to have a paper trail. But yes, we will accept, like we would consider you a sponsor if you gave a check then. Yes.
Going to the Niagara TA?
Yeah, NWTA, yep. And then again, just put like in the memo caring closet. And again, it'll go directly to that budget line. Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, any other new business? All right, any public comments? All right, any board member comments? All right, if not, I'll call for a motion to adjourn. All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. We're adjourned.
Very good.